Six. Six corporations control 90% of United States news media. When I read that statistic, it made me pretty concerned. And this is according to a PBS investigation from their documentary, Democracy on the Line. So 6 corporations control 90% of the news you see on your TV. And that statistic frightened me, so I went and researched a little more. I found that with the World Freedom Press Index, the United States ranked only number 48th. And so I looked for more statistics, and there was a lot. There was a lot of statistics that resembled those previous ones. The United States being pretty against freedom of speech, or at least a bunch of different opinions, so I had to ask, have we always been like this? And so I went first to the Constitution, our founding documents, and our First Amendment, which is amazing. Our First Amendment is supposed to be guaranteeing the right of freedom of press and freedom of speech. In fact, the phrasing of it is actually really admirable. Shall not infringe. The government shall not infringe on your right to freedom of press or freedom of religion. And then a redress of grievances. It means that, unlike a lot of other constitutions in Europe at the time, you could actually bring grievances to the government and they would have to address it. But whenever you read something like this founding document, you have to remember the context, the exceptions. At the founding of the United States, there were a lot of exceptions. Black people, women, Native Americans, poor white workers, stuff like that. And that makes it kind of difficult. Now, the phrasing, I think, is still something that's important today. And so, maybe as time went on, and slavery was abolished, maybe things got better. And so I dug in some further research into the 1900s. And that's where I found labor organizer and Socialist Party presidential candidate Eugene Debs. Eugene Debs was arrested with 101 Industrial Workers of the World members under the Sedition Act of 1918. He was in the middle of a speech, and the Sedition Act made it illegal to express grievances towards the government for participating in World War I. In fact, Eugene was arrested during a speech about it, and the Sedition Act ended up sending him into jail, and while in jail he was able to get 6% of the popular vote. But maybe we got better. I mean, we're in liberal freedoms right now, and maybe we got better. Maybe you can now protest wars better. So I went to more recent history. In fact, something that is still around today and hasn't been repealed by the Supreme Court is the Communist Control Act of 1954. The Communist Control Act of 1954 made it illegal to be a member of the Communist Party. It was illegal, you would be blacklisted from state jobs, and you could actually suffer fines and jail time. And in the passing of the Communist Control Act of 1954, there were some amendments that were added that restricted communist influence, which would be determined by a jury. So you just had to be communist influenced, and you could suffer all the consequences of being a full-on communist. And this was in 1954. There are many people who saw this bill get passed who are still alive and around today. and they were able to put pressure on unions. The predecessor to the AFL-CIO actually expunged 8 chapters of its own union in fear of government persecution. And that doesn't seem very much like freedom of speech at all. And so I want to talk a little bit about my ideological focus. I focused on a really small portion of the United States population for this research. And this small population, at the height, had 6% of the popular vote in a presidential candidate. And yet the United States was so afraid of their ideas that they put their full weight of legislative power behind it. The state, the police forces, and the court systems. And that makes me wonder if they did this to a small portion of the population, what they would do to a quote-unquote real threat. And it does answer my question, though. My question was, have we always been like this? And due to my research, I have to end with, yes. Yes, we have.